Guys, welcome to another episode of The Pulse. We're talking to cool people with great stories who are doing amazing things and agree to spend some quality time with us. And our guest today, Sandra Bernhard, is one of those people. I wasn't even sure, I have to tell you, how to introduce you, because I saw, obviously, comedy, but the acting, but there's books, but you have multiple albums. You were just on Severance. Like, how do I even do this?
I'm trying to throw back to, performers of my era, the groovy people, Cher, Carol Burnett, Lily Tomlin, everybody who had, a variety show, and they were incredibly talented actors. They could sing, they could dance, they could act. I'm sure most of them could write. And they had decades-long careers, some of them still around. So that was what I grew up on and what inspired me, because I didn't think, I'm just going to be one thing. I'm just going to get up and do stand-up. No, I sing, so I'm going to put together one-woman shows that, I tell stories, and they're funny, and they're irreverent, and I sing, and, they cover a variety of musical stylings. And as an actress, all that stuff requires acting anyway, so why would it be so out of the blue to actually be in a role that required dramatic, vibe and comedy at the same time? That's life. That's if you can channel all that, that's the best part of being a performer.
It's an interesting kind of analysis of that. It's extremely humble because that's just what you've continued to do. Do you acknowledge now that it's unique?
I think it's become more unique. That all came naturally, and it all came out of necessity of having to do it. You went from being on the road, month after month after month. You had to fill the stage with entertainment, and I think a lot of people do that now because they know they have to. But I think back then it's because people wanted to, and it just came as second nature.
Yeah. And doing research to do this interview, I saw that several kind of credit you as having invented those one-women shows, like the kind of doing it all there. Do you acknowledge that? Because it sounds like you're that's just what we did then. But people say you did it.
Well, I did it in a different way. I took all of the sort of influences and raw talent I had, and I put it into something that was more postmodern, because I'm talking about things and addressing, whether they're racial issues or, LGBTQ plus issues, or, you know what I mean? It's like I'm holding up a mirror to society. I'm holding up a mirror to myself. So it's very multi-layered. It's a commentary on, what we are, what we expect, what we've stolen from people and cultures, and how we, sort of absorb it, and how we put it into our day-to-day lives as a society, but certainly as a performer. All of that stuff, has had a huge influence, and I like to acknowledge where it's all come from.
I'm curious as to what made you want to do this, kind of get started, because all those things you just labeled, you're making people laugh, but you're changing society. Those all kind of come from different places.
Yeah, well, when I was really little, like 5 years old, I entertained my family, and it was natural for me. I like getting a response. I like making people laugh, And then as I evolved as a performer, I realized I had a lot to say. I had a lot of kind of connection to people who had, been on the margins. And that was really important to me to be a champion for people. And that just also came as second nature, that I had to do that. It was a responsibility as an artist and as a human being to not only perform, but to leave the audience with something more important to think about.
Was comedy the kind of best path to doing that? I was just on your Instagram page. I can give people the middle finger as I go through the town and say, this is what I'm going to stand for.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, you can do so much in comedy, and having people like Paul Mooney as my mentor, and then being around people like Richard Pryor. This is all back in the 70s. And just seeing just the unabashed courage and audacity just to be exactly who they were and take their, family history and their cultural history and just like put it right out there. So I was like, yeah, this can be done. And I want to do it too, because it's so effective.
I was on your Instagram page and there was, I guess, introducing the staff or the team of the Richard Pryor show. And I was like, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall of that room. I'm looking at that going, wow, look at those people. When you look at that, what's your response to that? I mean, that was a team.
Yeah, well, they were all like, people that became successful performers. Robin Williams,
Mooney, John
Marshall
Witherspoon.
Well, yeah, Mooney helped produce the show. He was the one who was responsible for choosing everybody and putting together the performers. Which is why I ended up there. I mean, and it was amazing. But again, when you're really young and you're just and it was before all of social media, and I'm way, way, way before. You were just in the moment. You know what I mean? It was like, oh yeah, I'm here. I'm talented. I get to do things that are within my wheelhouse. I don't know. And nobody thought like, oh, this is so weird. And Richard Pryor was so sweet and so like, supportive of young talent. You didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm in awe and I'm going to freeze. It's like Pryor was working through his own, stuff all the time, so it wasn't weird to be around somebody like Richard Pryor or Paul Mooney at all.
Was there something you defined as the big break?
Yeah, certainly King of Comedy, the film that I did with Robert De Niro and Jerry Lewis, directed by Martin Scorsese, was elevated my career to another level, and it was also like it gave me a lot of confidence, a lot of belief in myself as an actor. New people arrive in Hollywood; they're always interested in you for a while, and then you become part of like the landscape, and then there's the next person who comes along. But it certainly set the table for me as a unique talent. And I mean, that was a game changer.
And then after that, I mean, Roseanne and Pose and American Horror Story and all
and so much else in between and all my one-woman shows. And the most important thing is that as a performer, as an actress, as a writer, that you're really like having an authentic life, that you have relationships and friendships and, and you go on adventures and trips and you meet people and you synthesize all of the things that you're watching and the political times and the turmoil and the acting and the singers of the time and all the people who inspire you. It's a constant synthesizing of all that information that keeps your work fresh.
What's the best part?
I think being out in the world and traveling and experiencing other cultures and making new friends. It's so nice to be constantly inspired by people and their stories.
Coming up next, cancel culture has a lot of comedians concerned, but she says not if they just think.
Well, that doesn't mean you can't say things. I mean, you just say things in a different way. That to me is a given.
In looking through your career, you're kind of always doing something or on tour or on a show. But you're here April 27th at the Keswick Theater. I feel like with all the success you have to love this to keep doing it because you don't have to do this.
Yeah, well, I do have to do it because it's something that it's like second nature to me. It's like breathing. I'm walking. I'm constantly writing and thinking of ideas and songs I want to sing. It's not like it has to be pulled out of me or dragged out of me. It's just like I'm always in that sort of mind space and tempo, thinking about ideas and jotting things down. So I just love doing it, and I love performing live because you ask anybody who performs live, there's nothing that comes close to the experience.
Performing live over time has changed a little bit, I guess, through social media, through cancel culture, through all of these things. I feel like you were taking that on years ago. So I would wonder how much any of that even phases you.
We've all had to adjust to certain things, and in many ways, it was the right thing to happen. You know, to be casual about certain language, or even for me, somebody who's an incredibly concerned person about a culture's emotions and feelings. There are things that you don't understand because you're not of that culture. I'm a woman. I'm aligned with the LGBTQ community, and I'm extremely aligned with the Black community because that's where I cut my teeth, and the people who I first sort of related to as a performer. So, but it's just like you just sort of recalibrate and readjust some of the things that you might have said offhandedly 20 years ago. You just maybe wouldn't now, and that becomes second nature. You self-edit, and it's usually for the best.
The self-edit, the evolution, the for the best kind of coincides with the time where you could argue we need voices as much as ever. So that seems like it would be an interesting balancing act. Like people are much more sensitive to it, but it is also a time where there's so many things that need to be said.
Well, that doesn't mean you can't say things. I mean, you just say things in a different way. That to me is a given. I mean, I'm always going to be, quote unquote, outspoken about what's going on politically, culturally. I will be a social critic, but I think that, just to do offhanded comments about the way somebody looks or, that's not effective, and that doesn't move the needle. You've got to be smart. You've got to be multi-layered. You've got to think about things and present them in a way that people hear more than one thing at once.
Yeah. So being sensitive, informed, evolving is not the same thing as not still taking on those issues and being outspoken
not
and
at
challenging.
All. Au contraire.
Coming up, she's known for her outspoken stances on issues, and that's not going to change.
The fact that women and healthcare providers can end up being arrested for providing, healthcare for women who are having miscarriages is just shocking.
On the Shapes and Forms tour, tell us what we're going to experience on this one.
It's stories about people that either I've wanted to meet or I know, and they're very personal stories, and they're all woven in and out of great cover tunes and songs that I have always wanted to do. And then there's the sort of through line of little interstitials and little witty asides and funny little one-liners, and it all weaves it together and takes you on a little bit of a journey, which is what I like to think my shows always do. Take you up, take you down, take you in circuitous places that you've never gone before, because that's kind of, I want to reflect where I've been and what I do so that people have a unique experience with me.
And people who see this will obviously spend some time laughing, spend some time thinking. What's the takeaway from people who walk out of Shapes and Forms?
All of that, it's you want to shake people up a little bit, in a good way. You want to open up the emotional conversation. And at the same time, you just want to entertain people. I mean, that's what I want to do, and let them know they have an advocate out there on the front lines.
Is there still something that you want to do but haven't had the chance to?
Yeah, well, I've tried to create several TV series for me to star in, and I'd love to write and produce a show for myself, an ensemble show. But it's very hard to get those off the ground. But I continue to try, and I've come up with new ideas over the years, and I'll continue to whittle away at that until it happens.
So tell us about Sandyland.
It's a great platform for weekly for me to talk about what's topical and happening in the news and in politics, in culture. And then I take calls from people, which is great because, it's very interesting to get a cross section of the people that listen to me that surprise me, people from Texas, from South Carolina, from, places I would never expect people to tune in are into me. And they feel like I'm sort of a a touchstone and a conduit for them, for their frustrations, and I kind of voice them. So they call in and we chat, and then I have on, hopefully week to week, a compelling guest, whether somebody in entertainment or politics or, across the board, a variety of interesting people. And it's great because, it's just a conversation like this. You can get the best out of somebody and hopefully make them feel comfortable enough to talk about things to them that really matter.
But you touched on your kind of activism. You mentioned the things that's always been a part of you, the things that you're going to continue to work on. What should we be aware of in terms of your ongoing activism, how we get involved in being supportive of the things that matter to you?
Well, women's reproductive rights are like, really kind of top of the list because they're really at risk of being completely taken away. And the fact that women and healthcare providers can end up being arrested for providing, healthcare for women who are having miscarriages is just shocking. So I think that's something that, people should really get on board with because we all have like mothers and sisters and daughters and people who could be at risk during their pregnancy or their decision not to have a pregnancy. And that should be a no-brainer. That was, passed into law and then dismantled by the Supreme Court. And it's just unacceptable. Like women giving birth, needing to be taken care of and protected along with the healthcare providers. It's just a number one concern.
Next, we ask everyone, so how does Sandra Bernhard use her voice for good?
Well, using my voice for good is, constantly reminding people that nothing is promised and nothing is given.
What was it like? You talk about being a star of a show. I don't know if Severance was making you the star, but it was kind of cool to be in there, be a part of that, to be involved in one of those hit shows.
Everybody was really waiting for the second season, and it took a long time for it to get out. So I think people were really primed and really surprised to see people like me pop up in an interesting way. We shot it like a year ago, and I've been sitting on it for a year and not allowed to like talk about it, which I love. I think that you always want to surprise people, and it's had such a great impact, and I just love the show. It's just one of the best shows ever on TV.
I feel like you're so much better than me. That would be so hard for me. Like knowing I'm going to do that and sitting on it for a year. People are asking questions. I would be like, well, there is a little something coming up, but I can't let you know about it.
Yeah. Well, when you know that the effect it's going to have ultimately, it's not so hard just to stay mum.
We end every episode of The Pulse with the same question. I feel like you have touched on it pretty much throughout the discussion, but the theme of the show is using your voice for good. So I ask everybody what that phrase, use your voice for good, means to them.
Well, using my voice for good is, constantly reminding people that nothing is promised and nothing is given in this country and around the world, to have healthcare, to have education, to have freedom and autonomy is not something that is handed to us, which is certainly being proved right now. So if you are of voting age, you must get out and vote, whether it's a local election, a national election. You must be engaged. You must stay involved. It's your responsibility as a citizen, and it can be easily taken away. So never take it for granted.
Guys, thanks so much for watching The Pulse with today's guest, Sandra Bernhard. Very cool because she's done so much for so many years, just popped up on one of the hottest shows, and just kind of hearing her journey, her experience, her commitment to advocacy and activism. I enjoyed it, and she's making people laugh, so I hope you enjoyed it as well. And I leave you today, as I always do, reminding you whenever you can, use your voice for good and have a good one.